Today on the Big 3 in 30, Arizona faces off against Michigan in the Final Four.
A deep dive of Michigan's personnel.
NC State replaces Will Wade with Tennessee's Justin Gainey.
The 22nd head coach of NC State men's basketball.
And Syracuse loses two-sport athlete Calvin Russell to injury.
Out for an indefinite period of time.
This is the Big 3 in 30 College, the three biggest stories on campus from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 in 30 College starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 in 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Arizona and Michigan will face off in the Final Four as the last two number one seeds in the NCAA tournament, and the Wildcats will have to stop the Wolverines' elite offense to get to the title game. Leif Doolin breaks down how to make that happen on Locked On Wildcats.
A deep dive of Michigan's personnel, backcourt and frontcourt, top to bottom, and also discuss a trend that, if stays true to form, bodes very, very well for your Arizona Wildcats. So let's dive right in. So let's start in the front court. The front court is what makes Michigan special, and it's what makes them go, because they have one enormous size, going 7'3", 6'10", 6'9" in the front court. That's enormous. That's bigger than NBA teams, but those three are all unicorns. They all play very different styles of basketball than what that height would typically lead you to believe. So let's start with the first-team All-American, Yaxel Lendeberg. The most interesting thing about Yaxel is his usage rate is not very high. And while you may say, how can he be a first-team All-American and be deserving of that praise, Big Ten Player of the Year and an excellent Big Ten, and he doesn't have the ball that much? That is an interesting concept, because there's an argument to be made that he isn't as important to his team as many of the other guys because the rest of his team is excellent. I think that's an unfair argument to be made, but it is interesting. He's fourth in the team in usage rate. There are games where he disappears offensively and Michigan still wins by a ton. It's a credit to their team. They're not solely dependent on him. But let's talk about what he does do very well, which is why he gets this. One, defensively, he is amazing. This is mostly going to be offensive, but I'll give you some description for it. Defensively, he guards at the point of attack. And at 6'9", he's able to guard basically 1 through 5. He's sturdy. He's strong. He can guard point of attack. He can challenge threes. He can take the ball away from point guards. He's defended All-Americans this season. He defended Braden Smith at times. He defended against Keaton Wagler. So you see him guard guards, and he has the size to defend bigs. Now, the next thing that's really interesting to me is when you look at what he does offensively, the numbers to me are a little bit deceiving, because what he does offensively is he's a driver. His offensive rating is an 138.1, so which is the best on the team. So he is very efficient, but he only is a percentage of possessions used 20.6. For instance, Adai Mara, 24. You got Elliot Cadeau about 22.6, and then Morris Johnson, 21. So Yaxel is not used as frequently, but percentage of shots, he's at 21.4, and Adai Mara 21.1 is second. So you look at that and you say, okay, he's not as integral in the buildup of how they score, but he's a play finisher and he's great at it. And his effective field goal percentage is very good. He shoots 60.6, his true shooting 65%. And these basically say he's good at twos and he's good at threes. But where I say the stats are misleading is his impact offensively is as a play finisher, and he's most dynamic to me in transition. I think he's an excellent driver in transition. His free throw rate is solid. He draws 4.4 fouls per 40 minutes, and he shoots 81% at the line. But here's where it's interesting to me. When he shoots twos, he shoots 65%. When he shoots threes, he shoots 37%, which is very good. But I don't think he's a 37% shooter by eye test. I think the reason he shoots well from three is because teams would rather him shoot threes, and also because Adai Mara is enormous. Morris Johnson's enormous, and he's the beneficiary of getting great looks and knocks down shots. I think it's more important to look at volume of three-pointers attempted than percentage. And when you shoot 172 attempts from deep this season, 172 divided by, what are they at, 38 games? Let's guess 38. That's 4 threes in a game, and that's pretty good volume. Now, the catch and shoot stuff, probably pretty good. Off the deck, you don't know. So he's a vastly improved shooter. But if I'm Arizona, I want him shooting, and I'm not going to necessarily help off of him, but I would rather him shoot than get downhill and draw fouls, because that's what he does very well. Want to keep him out of transition. That is of the utmost importance. That is important. The guy that I think is most important to stop in terms of what he does best is Adai Mara. And I think he's the true matchup nightmare that Michigan really takes advantage of. He's 7'3", played at UCLA, didn't really fit with Mick Cronin. Goes to Dusty May, and they play 2 bigs, and you're worried, like, okay, how's the spacing going to be? How, like, they can block shots, they'll impact different stuff. But he's their focal point of their offense and their best pure passer. And why this is important is he allows Yaxel to get those catch and shoots and attack closeouts. He's a fantastic passer. His assist rate is very, very high. And then what's interesting is Arizona doesn't need to double him. Arizona won't need to double Adai Mara because behind him, defending him will be Mo Krivas. And Mo Krivas doesn't need help in this. I'll be curious to see if one-on-one scoring will be something Adai Mara can do or attempts to do against Arizona. Adai Mara, another thing to know about him is he's got soft touch. He's got good skill. He shoots 68% from 2, but he shoots only 55% from the free throw line. And he doesn't really shoot threes. He's attempted 9 on the season. So Arizona can play drop against him. They will play drop. And Adai Mara, in terms of his offensive rebound percentage, it's all right. It's not great. The only thing that I will say as to why it could be that not so great compared to his 7'3" height is because Morris Johnson's an elite rebounder. We'll get to Morris Johnson in a moment. But Adai Mara is the advantage creator. Most teams have to double him, and he's a fantastic passer. Sees over the top. He's got good spin, good feels to what happens in the game. Like, if he sees that you're doubling, he can spin away from it. If he sees that you're doubling from a side, he sees over, he's going to skip the ball, and they get great looks out of double twos. Arizona will not need to double, and I think that takes away some of the three-point prolific nature of Michigan. Michigan is a 37% three-point shooting team, and they're not bashful. Arizona cannot survive. I mean, they survive better than just about anyone, but they cannot survive a barrage of threes because their paint attack likely will not be as efficient as it typically is because Michigan is a stellar interior defense. So Arizona must take away the three-point line. I think it stems from taking away Adai Mara and his ability to create advantages by facing double teams. I don't think Arizona has to double. Adai Mara will have to take advantage of post-ups individually, and I think Mo Krivas can guard him better than just about anyone. I like that for Arizona. That makes Yaxel have to do more with one-on-one stuff, and I believe it'll be Ivan Karchenkov and Koa Pete guarding him. Largely Ivan Karchenkov, who usually you see scampering around guarding guys, but they play the majority of their minutes. Their most used lineup is their starting lineup, and that's Yaxel at the 3, Morez Johnson at the 4, and Adai Mara at the 5. I don't think Karchenkov guards Morez or Adai, so you're going to see Karchenkov play someone bigger than him. Yaxel's nearly 24. Ivan's a freshman, but Ivan's as physical as a defender as there is. He's got the lateral quickness to deal with guys like Yaxel, which makes him too fast for the two big guys. And Yaxel's not that much bigger than Ivan Karchenkov. I'm very eager to see that matchup and see if Ivan can frustrate him. Now let's get to Morris Johnson. Morris Johnson's a guy I've really been fond of for a long time. He played at Illinois, and as a freshman, he played through a broken wrist. He's just an absolute dog. He rebounds everything. His rebound rate's enormous. It's staggering. And he's become a far better free throw shooter, which is something that's important in this game because there's going to be fouls because a lot of these teams are going to be near the basket. A lot of these front court, these big bodies will be near the basket. He shoots 78% from the line. He shoots 66% from 2. And he's not a three-point shooter. He shoots 36%. He's taken 33 in the season. You live if Morris Johnson shoots threes. You live. And what he does very well is rebound. And he's kind of a play finisher that's going to find the ball via Morris Johnson alley-oops. He's going to get out and run, via Adai Mara to Morris Johnson alley-oops. And he's going to get out and run and be a far better athlete than he used to. Arizona's got the horses to run with at Michigan. You don't want to get in a track meet, I don't think. I think Arizona's going to want to control the pace because if you look at the games Michigan's lost, they've lost to Purdue, who limits turnovers. They did a great job controlling pace against Arizona for the most part in their game, and they do a great job in general. Wisconsin limits turnovers with the best of them, hit 18 threes in that game and beat them in Ann Arbor. And then Duke won the boards by a ton and were able to eke out a victory in DC in a neutral site game. And Duke had a House of Horrors type of finish in that one. But what you do know is that Duke has the horses to rebound up front. So you got to be able to rebound and control pace. And I'm looking at the stats right now for Purdue and Michigan. And Purdue and Michigan in the Big Ten tournament, when Purdue beat them, which is a team we know well, we just played them, they did not shoot that well from three, which was a bit of a surprise to me when I look at this statistically. But when you look at the rebounds, Michigan only won by a little bit. And then when you look at turnovers, which is where Michigan really typically forces issues, they force turnovers and get out and run. It's not like they force a billion turnovers, but when they get out and run, they're a train that you can't stay with them. Purdue only had 2 turnovers. That's what you get when you have an elite point guard. Braden Smith went 6 of 9 from 2 in this game, scored 14 points, but had an 11 assists. We talked about taking away Braden Smith is pivotal, but he was the complete ownership of that game. So the front court of Michigan's elite. Arizona can match it. You got to make Yaxel a shooter and take away open shots by not doubling Daimara and keep Morez Johnson off the offensive glass.
What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person, and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 College. NC State had to find a new head coach for the second straight season after Will Wade left for LSU, and the Wolfpack decided on Tennessee assistant Justin Gainey for the job. Grayson Boone and Kenton Gibbs have details on Locked On Wolfpack.
Justin Gainey has been officially, well, I guess technically still unofficially, but he is expected to officially be named the 22nd head coach of NC State men's basketball. That broke out this morning. Obviously, the two of us had already heard kind of later on Sunday night that this would be coming down the pipeline. It hits the media. The fan base is feeling great about this. It was very heartwarming to see the outpouring of support as we've kind of seen trickle out over the last couple of days. But now, ultimately, I'd say it's like 99% official. We're just waiting for the official word from the university and from Buc, Oregon. I've seen that the press conference is scheduled for Wednesday. I've also seen there's a board of trustees meeting for Tuesday, probably to solidify that contract. But Kenton, it is now official. Buc, Oregon goes out and gets his guy. Justin Gainey, the former Wolfpack point guard, is coming home to lead this program.
Exciting times for the Wolfpack. Exciting times. I mean, the reality is, it's so the antithesis of so many things that we just experienced. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
In a bunch of ways. You talk about the loyalty. You talk about this place meaning something to them. You talk about even the philosophy, right? Like, I'm sure that this thing has made its rounds, and most of our listeners have already seen it. But Justin Gainey is saying our defensive philosophy is we're going to contest every shot because we are a college program. And then college, if you give players open shots, they'll make them. I'm like, oh, here I am thinking like, hey, you got to give up something. You got to give up something. And Justin Gainey's like, you got to give up the blank you will. The blank you will give up something. So, I'm excited to have him. Heck of a recruiter, heck of a coach. Defensively, you know that this team is going to be about something special. Offensively, you kind of wonder what's the deal there. What can you make happen in that regard? And I think it's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, at the end of the day, like I've said in the past, Justin Gainey had the highest boom potential. It could come to pass. It could come to pass that if Justin Gainey does very well here, he's going to be here. He's going to be here for a while, if that's the situation. Like Grayson said, he's a younger coach. He's got plenty of coaching left in front of him. And this is a guy that he's a Wolfpack alum. There is so many great things that happen there. The defensive philosophy. And the biggest thing, Grayson, the biggest thing I'm excited about?
What's that?
Justin Gainey talks a lot about having length on the court. Thank God! Finally! And this is no knock on any previous coaches. When is the last time we had a coach that said, we are going to be a really long team? We're going to be big. We're going to have some big fellas, some girth and tonnage down low to, make it a little bit difficult at the rim. When's the last time we had that, Grace?
I mean, there were a couple Keats teams that were relatively long. Gottfried had some size. You think about BJ Anya, Leonard Freeman at times. I don't know. You'd have to go back maybe to like the Sidney Lowe days, maybe Herb Sendek. It's been a long time since it's been consistent, to your point. That's
all I'm saying. Give me some big fellas down there. Give me some. I'm tired of saying, oh yeah, we're at a size disadvantage. And when you're at a size disadvantage, this is just what it is. Big men lead. Not just in football. Shout out to Coach Tuje. This is not just a football moniker, because we've seen it with how many teams that the big fellas carry the night. We saw Duke in that massive collapse, but what was at the center of that collapse? Terrace Reed was giving them boys all they could handle down low. Hell, even if we look at Duke's last collapse against Houston, what happened? They had a 6'9" guy out rebounding 7-foot Kamen Malawa. So, and this ain't a show to bash Duke and what they got going on. It's a tough time for the Triangle in terms of basketball. A very tough time right now. But this is to say that when your bigs are setting the tone, yes, guard play is extremely important to tournament play and all that. But the reality is, when those big fellas are setting the tone, when those big fellas are staying out of foul trouble and protecting that rim, it gives you a shot in every game. How do y'all think Miami won so many games this year?
Exactly.
Again, they didn't have the biggest team, but you know what they did well? Those boys, they could jump out the gym, and they were, even if they weren't that long in terms of height, just like Grayson mentioned BJ Anya. BJ Anya is not as tall as the traditional center, but he's got arms that he could darn near grab it. He could darn near scratch his calves standing straight up. So it's an ordeal where it's like, okay, there's length there, even if it's not traditionally what length looks like. I'm just tired of being, oh yeah, we're going to get beat on the boards, but we can make it up in other ways. Finally, we got a coach that said, no, enough of this nonsense, enough of this foolishness. Get me some tall trees underneath.
And I think, obviously, the selling point for Gainey is the ability to recruit. He's a proven recruiter. Well, I'll get to some of that later, but he has relationships with some guys that were on our team this year. So bookmark that. I'll circle back. But you think about the talent that he's had, especially the last 4 to 5 years at Tennessee. They've had, under Gainey, they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different NBA draft picks. How many have we had at NC State in that same time period? 0.
And I want you to think about this. Who would you say, if you had to name top 3 to 4 folklore heroes for NC State in the past couple of years in terms of basketball, who would you name?
Obviously, DJ Burns. Obviously,
who recruited DJ Burns when he first got into college? Who recruited him?
Oh, hold on now.
Where did DJ Burns start his college career? What year? Who was the assistant coach there?
How did this one slip my brain? Let me look this up real fast.
Horrible
live show here.
The reality is, again, Justin Gainey has shown time and time again that he goes out and he gets the best guys. Time and time again, he shows that length matters, size matters. He's going to get the guys underneath that he absolutely needs. So, this is the reality of what we're looking at. I'm excited about the hire. Grace is excited about the hire. All of Wolfpack Nation is excited about the hire because, again, this is a guy that has, we know the drawbacks of the no head coaching experience and all that. But this is our head coach. This is our head coach. He loves the pack. He really wants to be here. He really wants to do this job. And with the resources he's given, I'm going to just say this. There are lots of coaches that I don't think a ton of as if you put him on an even playing field with everybody else, I'm not sure. I think there are lots of coaches right now in the NCAA born on third base a little bit. 100%. Every school that they've led are schools that are super resourced up. But guess what happens when you put people at super resourced up schools? They win.
Yep.
They win. And so if we're looking at 13 to 14 M's for Justin in terms of, or for Coach Gainey in terms of, what he needs in those regards, hey, I'm excited for him.
All right. So I had to double check on DJ Burns. He was before Gainey was at Tennessee.
Okay.
I mean, we would have probably lost our minds if there was a connection to be drawn there.
Fair. That's fair.
But regardless, yes, the talent that Gainey has been able to acquire and draw to Tennessee is nothing to sneeze at. So you got to figure that's a massive selling point, obviously, for him. And then, the overarching point is he is one of our own. And that's kind of what I've been pushing here for the last, 5 days because of how quickly this has gone through. You think about the need for stability at NC State basketball right now. You need somebody that wants to be here, is driven to improve NC State basketball and see it through no matter what. That is Justin Gainey. This is probably, in terms of those concepts, this is your guy. This is the top guy that you could have brought in to introduce and hold up all of those values for us. So it's very exciting to have one of our own return. Obviously, he was a fan favorite back in the day from 96 to 2000 running the point. We obviously know the fable of his ACC tournament days back in 97 and 98. I mean, just playing every minute of every game. You couldn't take him off the court. Think about an NC State basketball team in 2026 and 2027 operating under that mindset. Defensive-minded, tough. You cannot mentally beat this team like we saw. Well, not to get into it, but you understand what I'm picking up and putting down here. So very valuable recruiting aspects coming to NC State now. The relationships in which Gainey has built over the course of 20 years. Started his unofficial coaching career in 2006 as a operations assistant with NC State. Now 20 years later, he is regaining his position as the head coach of NC State men's basketball. Special time. Again, I cannot say enough about the outpouring of love I saw all over social media today. Everyone is so excited for this to be his shot. And like I said yesterday, and I'll say it probably a million more times until we tip the new season off in November, I am so excited that this is where it's all going to come to fruition for Justin Gainey. Obviously, he's got 3 kids. Jordan actually just played for him at Tennessee a couple of years ago. But what a moment this has to be for the Gainey family and all those in the Wolfpack fraternity, all the former players that have come out and, bid Gainey as their decision. And I'm sure you're going to see a lot more connection to players past around our program now. And that's something I've really been starving for decades now. And so to watch Justin Gainey get this opportunity, it's going to be very special times around this NC State men's basketball program.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed. That's according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves. It's over at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support your show by saying you heard about Indeed right here. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Welcome back to the Big 3 in 30 College. Syracuse got a big recruiting win by landing 5-star wide receiver Calvin Russell, who plays both football and basketball for the Orange. But Russell went out with injury before his freshman season even began at spring practice. Justin Holzer has more on Locked On Syracuse.
Obviously, the big story, Calvin Russell, 5-star wide receiver, true freshman this upcoming season, was most likely going to be the wide receiver one for this team, is out for an indefinite period of time. We are going to talk about the wide receiver depth beyond Calvin Russell, what it looks like, who needs to step up. But first and foremost, let's just react to the injury. Now, if you came here for my reaction and you were expecting me to say that the Syracuse season is over and start crying and start whining and say, woe is me, and how could this happen? You're not going to get that. But it is a major buzzkill. We can all admit that together, that it's just an unfortunate situation. I'm going to give you the statement that Fran Brown put out in just a moment. It's not good. It doesn't sound good. If you want to believe the rumors online, have at it. I'm not going to necessarily dive into them here on this show. But based on what is going on right now from Fran Brown's statement, it doesn't seem very, very good. And I feel for Calvin Russell. I mean, 5-star recruit. We know he was going to get a lot of playing time for Syracuse this season. Hopefully he's going to play this season. We don't have an official ruling on whether or not he will play this season. But regardless, he was going to have a major role as a true freshman at high school, all the hype with him, also on the basketball team. And it's just unfortunate that he got hurt during practice. And it's football. It happens. I was saying the other day to my dad that players are not immune to injuries during practice. It can happen. It sucks. There's no other way to put it. It just sucks that it happened. Here's the statement from Fran Brown. He said, quote, I'm just going to read it to you all. Calvin Russell suffered an injury in practice that will cause him to miss an indefinite period of time. I'm confident Calvin will return stronger because of our culture, commitment to our players, and the relationship Calvin, his family, and I have. Calvin, best believe Orange Nation's got your back. That doesn't sound like a short-term injury. That doesn't sound like Calvin Russell, he was in practice and he was running down the field and, his hamstring gave out. He pulled his hamstring. He's going to miss the rest of spring ball. He'll miss the spring game. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, he'll be good for the summer. Doesn't sound like anything like that. It does sound like this is a major, major injury. We don't have a timetable at the time of this recording. The statement said indefinite, so we just have to hope and pray that Calvin Russell can play at some point in 2026. I'm not going to get greedy and say, hey, play week 1, but maybe at some point he can play in 2026. Bottom line is, it doesn't sound like this is a good injury. You as a coach, in this case, Fran Brown, you don't put out that type of statement if it was a minor injury. This is not good for Syracuse, and this is especially not good for Calvin Russell. So best wishes, and we just hope that he can recover as soon as possible. And it's a major buzzkill. First 5-star commit since the early 2000s, over 2 decades to Syracuse football. He committed over the summer in 2025, and for many months, we wondered whether or not it was going to stay. And then on early signing day, that first day, if you remember, Calvin Russell all of a sudden decided not to commit right away to Syracuse. Didn't necessarily say his recruitment was wide open, but he later said that he had to be 100% sure, and lo and behold, he did sign with Syracuse, and we were all happy about it, and we were all thrilled about it, and we couldn't believe that Syracuse and Fran Brown were able to land a 5-star player for the first time in over 20 years, and he was more likely than not going to be the number 1 wide receiver for this team this upcoming season as a true freshman, and I was really looking forward to him catching passes from Steve Angeli, who is recovering from the torn Achilles, and all indications seem to be that that recovery is going well and he should be good to go for the start of this season. And who knows, maybe we will get to see that in 2026, that duo. But from the sound of, or I guess from reading that statement and understanding the context behind it, it does not sound very pretty. I guess the only positive, if you want to try to take away a positive, which there aren't many when it comes to injuries, is that Syracuse doesn't play a game until September. So we got 5 months until Syracuse football is going to play a game. I don't know if Calvin Russell's going to be back in 5 months. Cross your fingers that he will be, although an indefinite period of time is very, very open-ended. But they don't play for another 5 months. It gives the people behind Calvin Russell plenty of time to grow into their new role. It's not like something that happened over the summer and we're all scrambling before the season starts. And it's also better to happen now than in week 1 or week 2 of a season when you know it's going to knock you out for the rest of the year and could potentially bleed into the following season as well. I mean, look at Steve Angeli. He's not fully healthy yet. He's getting much better. He's going to be ready to go for the start of this upcoming season, but he suffered his torn Achilles very early last year, and it bleeds. It takes a long time for that to fully heal. I'm being very clear here. I don't know if Calvin Russell has a torn Achilles, but you get the idea. Hard to take positives away from it. It's just a buzzkill. I think that's the best way to put it, but we have to also remind ourselves that this is football. And it's unfortunate, but injuries are a part of this sport. It's a part of sports in general, and we just have to move on and hope that the wide receiver depth on Syracuse is strong enough to be able to overcome this injury.
That's all for today's Big 3 and 30 College. If you follow pro basketball or football, the Big 3 and 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NBA and NFL going up every weekday just like this one. Just search the Big 3 and 30 NBA or the Big 3 and 30 NFL wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 and 30 College.